Coffee with a Chair was recorded before a live studio audience.
Welcome. Thank you for that. Welcome to Coffee with the Chair. I'm Teresa Aronson from the St. Lucie County Chamber of Commerce. It is our pleasure, our honor to facilitate this show every single month, and I am lucky enough to do it with the Board of County Commission Chair, which of course right now is Mr. Sean Mitchell. Chair Mitchell, nice to see you as always.
Same thing with you, Teresa. Good to see you as always.
Nice to see. I feel like you're a little far away today. It
Can I
seems
move
a little
up?
weird. No, probably not now. Don't give Mike a heart attack. Okay, there you go. It's too late. Now we're looking at your chest. You're out of the shot. But you brought with you today one of my most favorite people in the world, and I will not steal your thunder. I will let you introduce him.
Well, today I asked that our county administrator, Howard Tipton, come join us today. I've been here for 4 years, and I've seen some marvelous things being done, and it's under his leadership that he had a steady focus. There's no highs and lows with you, Howard. You're just straight going forward, and I admire that. And I thought today would be, because we're going through the budget process right now. We had our first meeting last night, and we'll finalize the budget next week or the following 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I thought it was important to let Howard tell us about all the good things that we're doing here in the county.
And some of the things that you've accomplished, I mean, because the Mets, remember the Mets, 25-year, yeah, I know you do. There's some things that he's done since he's been here, and you've been here, what, 8 years?
8 years.
Yeah. I mean, some pivotal things for our community. And you're right, I don't think I've ever seen Howard lose his cool.
It's the medication.
Is it? Okay, yeah. It would have to be, I would think, at this point. But welcome to the show.
That's all part of the county administrator compensation plan. The
They give it
medication.
to you
Yeah,
with your,
it's
your
in the
ID
water.
badge.
That's right, it's in the water.
Here's your Xanax
Here's
and
your
your ID
Xanax,
badge.
That's right.
Anyway, we digress.
Yes, we do.
So we're going to talk budget today?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think you have to kind of step back a little bit and understand that the budget has expanded some, but not in pace with the population. And
right.
You see the growth that we're experiencing. The number of new people coming to our community, we're at 355 or so now, by probably an undercount. I think we'll be at 400,000 by 2025. And that's a lot of people in a short period of time. When I got here, there was 270,000 people. So, give you an idea of how quickly we're growing. And a lot of that growth has come really since about 2016. That's when things just seemed to flip, and we've just seen it explode. And so trying to keep up with that from a service demand perspective, but also then trying to think about where we need to be 20 years out, 30 years out, because by the time we get to 2050, we'll be at 600,000 people. And so, providing services from water and wastewater and transportation and transit, and think about parks. And you want to make sure that you have the land reserved before the development comes, although it's always hard to do after the fact, right? You couldn't put Central Park in New York today. It had to be there first. And so you think about that. So really thinking with the board and the vision that the board has about where we're going to grow and how we're going to be, because we have this wonderful quality of life today. We want to make sure that who's ever next inherits that, and be better stewards of the land that we have. So that's what the budget was focused on this time around. So we're looking at the growth, and so we talk about our water and wastewater expansion as we look to serve both the northern area of the county that looks by the Indio Rio 95 intersection area, as well as going out west. And there are some significant developments that are coming in. So we're looking at potentially $100 million expansion for our water and wastewater systems. The board this year took the first step in that to approve a $20 million loan, basically, to get that started. We're using $34 million of the ARP money, the federal money that's come down, to improve that. And so we've got all of those things now working in design and coming to fruition. So that's a big piece of getting ready. We've worked with the Department of Transportation to accelerate Midway, the next section of Midway from Selvets to Jenkins.
And let's talk about that for a minute. There's 3 jurisdictions right there, right, on Midway Road, which makes it kind of cumbersome, right? You're not all
And
going to do it.
DOT.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of jurisdictions there
Oh, yeah.
working on that road. And people ask that question all the time. Why did they just do this part? Well, that's a different person than the next part. And I like to use the show to clear up some misnomers. But now we're going to move on to the more western part of Midway Road.
Yeah, we're working our way west, and so this will be the next segment. It's going to, what we're doing is it's actually been approved by DOT to fund, but it starts only in 2026. So we're going to advance fund it and then get reimbursed by DOT starting in 2026. The big key is we've got to fix the bridge. The bridge that goes over the turnpike is a real choke point. You have all three entities. So you've got DOT, you've got the turnpike, and the county involved with that. What we want to do is have an intersection there, an interchange with the turnpike. That's what we're working towards. And so we're in those discussions. In fact, I have a meeting next week to talk about what that looks like. We went down, I think in July, I had a meeting with the Secretary of Transportation down in South Florida. I had a meeting with him to explain why this is such a priority for our community, and that was received well. And so you have to do the design, and what we want to do is make sure we do the design with the big picture in mind.
Yeah.
So even if we have to widen the bridge and heighten the bridge, because apparently that's one of the requirements, we want to make sure that the whole interchange is part of that. So
We have November 2nd, we're working with DOT. They're going to have a public meeting in our office to kind of further explore our options there. But it's tough, right? That's very tight.
It's very
that
tight.
bridge. I know they have some land, on the north and south of that bridge, but it's still going to be awfully tight there.
Yeah, you can make it work. You can make it work. But then you also have Jenkins coming south, right? That will come into Midway, and that's going to be another corridor option to help relieve some of that traffic as well. So there's the board has actually quite I think a very strong transportation vision for the community. It's just working with these partners, because when you talk about roads, they're just expensive and they take a long time. I mean, it can take 7 years just to buy the right of way for it. And so it just takes time, but you got to be determined and you got to have that vision to work towards. And I think the board has done that.
And what Howard was really smart about, and us as a whole, is I remember back in 2010 when we had that stimulus money coming out. The key word was shovel ready. Well, nothing was shovel ready.
No.
Nothing. I was in construction at that time, and it was very frustrating. There's all these federal dollars that are going to help us, but there's no design, there's no engineering. So when the ARP money came in, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We dedicated a lot of that money to our infrastructure. Do the design, do the engineering, because I knew, and I was right, I said either through reconciliation or from a bipartisan bill, we will get an infrastructure bill. And now we're shovel ready. And kudos to Howard and his staff and everybody that works here as a team, because that'll relieve a lot of pressure on our citizens, and it'll only enhance. We can't make up for our sins of the past when you put $10 down, $10 a month for a house or a plot, but you didn't have any infrastructure. You had no lighting, no sidewalks, no drainage.
You didn't even have utilities.
Nothing.
GDC just wanted to sell lots for $10 down.
$10 down, $10 a month.
10 years. But Howard mentioned that when he came here just 8 years ago, we were at 270. Now we're at 355, right?
Yep.
And so you think about that wear and tear on the infrastructure that we do have. So you're going to need necessary improvements. And budget-wise, you're talking about you need like a third. You need to add a third of your budget, nearly half to probably maintain and increase.
Well, one of the great things that happened in 2018 was we had the half-cent sales tax pass. And so what that did is it provides $100 million into infrastructure improvement just on the county side over that 10-year period. We use that money to then leverage additional grant dollars. And so that $100 million, I believe by the time that 10 years is up, will turn into $200 million.
Correct.
That we will use not only for road improvements and repaving and keeping up with the wear and tear, but also the stormwater systems, which are so important to our both flooding and Indian River Lagoon and the health of that, and then sidewalks to make sure that people get around. One of those things that wasn't part of the GDC design. No
That's
sidewalks.
true.
There was nothing part of the
There was
GDC
nothing part of that, just a big subdivision.
They measured land, and that was the extent of their design. It's funny that you mentioned that we talked about the half-cent sales tax, because people say, well, we're getting all this new business, impact fees, right? Why can't that be? But impact fees are designated for, occupancy only, so they can't repair and maintain with
That's right,
impact
nothing
fees.
for maintenance. It's
Yeah,
just to
yeah.
expand to meet what the demands that growth is putting on the system. So it's a very valuable resource.
Of course.
But it is not a maintenance resource.
It is
that's
not a
for
And,
sure.
maintenance
and
resource.
impact fees, and there's been many discussions about it, but impact fees are, just so the audience knows, it's a one-time fee when you build a home. And if you did not pay those impact fees, then every other taxpayer that lives in our community would have to pay for that, for the growth, for the sidewalks, for the more schools, all the things that come along, fire, EMTs, all those things come along. So that's like buying a ticket to get on a bus if you took the impact fees away, but not being able to ride on the bus.
Right.
And it's just, it's a,
And it
it's a
go-
one-time
it's-
fee, and it goes for the improvement that we need as a growing community.
Capital improvements.
Absolutely.
And it extends to businesses as well. It's commercial and residential property. I think
that's
that
right.
people should know that. Commercial is paying a huge portion of our impact fees,
And the
which is
more
what
that we get
want.
businesses here, high-end businesses that we're attracting and bringing here under Howard's leadership, we may give them a tax abatement, but that's only for our general fund. Your fire district, your schools,
schools.
they all get, and here's a perfect example. I said it last night. Tamco, before they got their impact, their abatement, they were paying $486,000 a year in taxes. After they got their abatement and still not paying the money to our general fund, it was $686,000. And it's only for a short period of time. And somebody brought up last night, Howard, at the meeting, well, when you give these things away, VGTI, and, well, no, first of all, that wasn't the county. And second of all, that was money that was given. There's a set of parameters that if you want these, and you know it better than I, but if you don't pay the salary or hire the amount of employees that you said you were going to, well, we have a watch group that looks over these things to make sure everything,
Yeah.
all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. And
But that was a model that was kind of passed to us from the state to the city of Port St. Lucie, not the county. And I hate to over-explain, but people don't really understand, right? Because if they're coming to you to complain about VGTI, I find that humorous.
Oh, and the trash.
Yeah, because in the trash, which has nothing to do with either of you.
But we do have a performance-based system, so these incentives
And their reimbursement.
are reimbursement, right? They have to do the capital investment, they have to hire the employees at the wages they said, and then they get reimbursed if they pass all those tests. And the community just benefits all the way
Right.
around. So it's a key economic tool for us. And so let's talk about some of the expansion that we've seen. So the county, you talk about ad valorem tax abatement. The county actually invests more in the City of Port St. Lucie projects than the city does. And I think we're happy to do that because we see the advantage of projects going in Port St. Lucie. That's good for Fort Pierce, right? That's good for the unincorporated. It helps everybody. And so we want to be a partner with the city on those projects. And so it makes perfect sense for us to be doing it. And we've had great success over these last few years. I mean,
Yeah.
just tremendous.
It's a different model than VGTI. That was money up front. We don't do that anymore.
It was, and I think the world changed. I mean, to be fair to that project, the world changed. The
It did.
National Institute of Health no longer funded. They were funding when that started. We had a
Yeah.
university connection, and then the university connection went away. So
and the Great Recession.
It
Yeah.
wasn't a bad vision. It was just
The perfect
it was the
storm of-
variables that came along.
Yeah.
But now with Cleveland Clinic here and turning that into their research headquarters, I mean, what a win!
Yeah.
And that wouldn't have happened if the building wasn't there. So,
true.
I think you have to look at it sometimes where. It's funny how you think about Post-it notes, right? I mean, originally people were like, dang, the glue doesn't work. And all of a sudden somebody says, hey, maybe we can do this with it. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of what happens. Sometimes the original idea isn't the one that finally gets to the finish
I
line.
think that happens a lot,
I
right?
think it does,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's why you got to be a little flexible.
But I can say that in my tenure here in St. Lucie County, when I first came, I was surprised at the lack of shovel-ready, the lack of spec, distribution, because I think most cities of our size have distribution
Correct.
spec, meaning somebody built it because they know somebody will come and rent it. And we were literally, we had nothing to offer, and I think that has all, changed. A lot of them are building it themselves. We've got Amazon pretty much on every corner, like
Yeah,
a
I think
Walgreens
so,
at this
yeah.
point, and some
But
other
you know what?
big
And here's
companies,
another
but we do
thing
have some spec.
we should bring up too. It was something I learned from Howard, but 84% of our residents used to drive out of the county every day to go to work. I know when I moved here in '91, there was no jobs here. I drove to West Palm Beach every day. And that was 40 hours a month that I was on the road, that I couldn't be with my family, couldn't do things in my community, go to a kid's ball game. We got it down to low 60s now, so we're
Yeah,
headed
it
in the
was
right
62,
direction.
which is-
62%, and that's key for families in here, that they don't have to drive so far to have a good paying job that turns into a career.
Yeah.
And we talk about the economic development that we're seeing, and we know that we have a labor shortage, but that's what we mine. As we develop these jobs that are paying so much better, those folks have an alternative. Instead of driving out of the county, they can
Choices.
just drive across the county.
Yeah.
And that's where we want to be. And you think about too, if our economic piece is working well, our education piece has to also be there. And with the school board's efforts, which have been dramatic over these last
Oh, my
years,
goodness.
and then now IRSC, Indian River State College, under Dr. Moore's leadership, is taking off. I mean, I think you have to have all these pieces in play, and we do. And
Yeah.
that's why you're seeing the success that we're having. Obviously, Pete Tesh at the EDC as well, you know, just knocking it out of the park. Your leadership from a chamber. And I will say, one of the things in the budget, let's go back to the budget for a minute. One of the things that we have in the budget for next year is a recognition that the county isn't always the best, sometimes, but not always the best, in dealing with the smaller businesses. We do really well with the Amazons and the Maverick Boats and Pursuit and Director and all these things. But when it comes to the really small startup businesses, that's not necessarily our wheelhouse, but it is the chambers. And so we are going to be contracting with them starting October 1 so that they can be a partner in helping us with our small business partners as they come in and grow. And it's a great partnership and collaboration. And I will say too, I think that's one of the things that we do really well. We know that we don't have all the answers, but we can bring the right people to the table
To help.
and help, and
Yeah.
and that's where we get. And we do that with our city partners. We do that with our business partners. If you think about what we've done at the port, you know, that's $17-18 million of private investment that is going to ultimately have a $100 million annual economic impact and create close to 1,000 jobs.
And at the
Yeah.
airport,
And at the airport, of course, we're the largest airport by acreage in the state of Florida, General Aviation Airport, and getting ready to, pun intended, take off, right? So you know, you have the board approved an RFP the other day where we are now currently in negotiations with the firm, the winning firm, and they are looking at managing the buildings that we have out there, the new hangar,
Yep,
the
yep.
MRO.
28,000 square foot hangar, but also additional construction going on out there. And so the airport is really starting to position itself so we can have conversations about the terminal and where it is currently located is not large enough to handle the planes that we anticipate coming in, because the board has also approved going for a runway extension up
Yep.
to 7,500 feet. And so we're going to have to move the terminal. So as you look at it, you go, well, this makes sense. Now we're going to have maybe the front entrance off of Kings Highway, going through the industrial
Oh.
park into some other properties that we have there. So now you're perfectly situated so you can get off at Indrio,
Right.
or that you think about going out into the future, St. Lucie Boulevard, having that interchange with both the Turnpike and
Yep.
95 at some point. It's in the long-range transportation plan of 2045. But but that's how you have to think about this stuff. 2045 sounds like it's a long time away. It's not.
It'll be here before you know
Yeah,
it.
it's like boom. And so, but we'll have that new front entrance, and now it's an airport, right? Now it's really where it's positioned so that we can handle the growth and deal with a population of 600,000, 800,000. That's where we're going to be. That's what the airport has to be designed to handle.
and also you have Director here, you have the airport here, and we're a foreign free trade zone.
Right? For
Yeah.
These are really key ingredients that can build good growth and good paying jobs and a lot of local businesses.
Yeah.
I remember through the pandemic, and then I'll let you continue, but everybody, and I'm so proud of our community, we supported our local businesses.
We did.
No matter what it was, we gave out millions of dollars to thousands of businesses and things of that nature. And you know, there's one day in the year, and I forget, it eludes me what day it is, but it's, you know, I think the
Small
day,
business.
yeah, and I always try to the day after
Shop
Thanksgiving
local.
when they have this, you know, all these big stores.
The
Shop
Saturday
local.
after is
Yeah.
Shop Local.
Yeah, and just shop local, because those are the mom and pop stores that, you know, when times are tough, they still stayed in business, and we need to support our own.
And we did, and I feel that I was very pleased on how we supported our own. We came up with different programs. Everybody came up with different programs to support our own. And I only saw chains really go down, to be honest with you. And from a local standpoint, I'm a local chamber, right?
Yeah.
I don't get a lot of love from the big chains, so I wasn't mad about it, right?
No, the little people that
It's the little people
sustain
that
us.
live and work here. They keep their money here.
And their families are here,
Yeah,
and their
yeah, yeah.
friends, yeah.
Yeah. The airport, I know, has been a kind of a pet project of yours and the port, and we've seen huge gains there, right? And our airport really is kind of a niche market. It's an MRO airport, and people always say, when are we going to get passenger planes? And we've seen passenger planes go down in our neighboring communities, right? They just can't sustain them. You're going to need 1 million plus people. So I always say to people, would you rather have 1 million more people around so you could get a little, puddle jumper? Or do you want to just drive a half an hour
Well,
down
that
to West
vision
Palm
still
Beach?
may happen even before we get 1 million people
It
here.
will,
Yeah.
but I feel like we're, it's when everybody wanted Costco. We already have Sam's. They're good to us.
What
They
do you
pay a
say,
lot of
Trader,
taxes.
when's Trader Joe's coming?
Yeah. So I don't care about that. I like the people that are here already, and the MROs has done well for us.
So you have 3,000 people already working out the airport with an annual economic impact of over $500 million
Exactly.
already. And so I do think, though, that passenger service will happen sooner rather than
You
later.
do?
I do. I do.
All right. Well, it didn't work out in Melbourne, or Melbourne, right?
Vero.
No, Vero.
Vero.
Yeah, Melbourne's fine. Melbourne has, but yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see how it goes. And we had a little one for a while.
That's right.
And
No, I think you get to that critical mass, and you're starting to see, even just from a business development side,
Yeah.
you're starting to see the businesses that are out there and the ones that are still coming. That's really going to drive a lot of that too. So
Yeah.
I feel good about where the airport is positioned and where we're headed. The utility expansions out that way will help provide some of that critical infrastructure.
can we talk about that too for a minute? Wait, I'll let you finish.
Sure, but I think the northern part of the county is kind of, we've seen a lot of the growth happening down in Port St. Lucie. I think you're going to see the growth really start to also be in the north. It won't replace what's going on down in Port St. Lucie, but it will, I think, also start to take off in the northern part.
Yeah, this tenure with Pete Tesh at the EDC, I will admit that Fort Pierce has seen more from this growth than they have in the past. It's always typically been south.
South of Midway.
But we talk about annexation to the west. So people say, we can't have any more people, we're out of land. And in Florida, that's not really an issue, is it?
No,
No.
not yet.
No. 'cause
But we
we'll
are
just
the
keep-
20th largest in size, 13th in density.
Yeah.
So we have to be really smart about how we do our
And
growth.
that's my thing. We can continue to expand our utilities to the west and to the north, but I'm confident that we're going to do that responsibly, because a lot of those roads out there are not ready, right? If you put water in, you still can't drive 50,000 people down those dirt roads.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
But Kings Highway already has a plan for expansion, so all the way up to Indrio. Indrio will be expanded all the way to US 1. So I think there are some great opportunities to improve our road network to meet that growth. And as you noted earlier, the commercial and development side pays for a lot of that.
They do. They
And
do.
so that's the nice part. But trying to stay ahead of that, and with the right vision, and making sure that we're preserving the green space and people aren't living on top of one another, but making it walkable, making all the things that people are looking for today. That's what we need to keep in
walkable
mind.
is a huge buzzword now. Everybody wants walkable,
Sure,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Tradition's gotten so crowded, I don't know if you can walk it anymore.
My 14-year-old likes going to the village square there just
Yeah.
to walk around with his friends, and I guess it gets crowded.
It does.
Oh, yeah.
It does. It does.
So we talked about the budget hearings, and one of the things I wanted to mention was, we were able to fund the sheriff's office 100% of what they had requested. The judiciary came in with a large request. We were able to split that over 2 years to get them to where they need to be. The medical examiner has come in and said that she is in need of a new facility, and I think we all agree
Oh,
that
yes.
it is
very tiny.
woefully antiquated and in need of demolition, really, to start over. And so we are working collaboratively with the 4 counties to get that done, and as well as our state legislature.
And I hear there might be some money coming from the state to
Yes,
help out
Cross
with
your
that.
fingers,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Today is actually the date
day
that we'll
we'll find
hear.
out.
So
Yeah,
Representative
yeah.
Trabolsi's been great in her leadership, as has
And
Senator
bringing money
Harrell.
back to our
She
community.
has worked so hard and
Yeah.
really has brought back quite a bit of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
So very excited about that because he can't veto this. So I
No,
think
no,
he's getting your money.
this is a real direct
It's
allocation.
some real money
This
that's
is
going
a
to come
direct
here. So
Harbor
that's
Point.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
So we're excited about all of that. We were able to do a lot of the infrastructure stuff. In fact, we were able to take some of our franchise fees that we get from our utility companies, where we had put them back in the general fund during the Great Recession. They are typically used in other places for infrastructure. We've moved it back into public works specifically for infrastructure.
good.
We've also been able to set some money aside that we're going to use for bonding. We're normally a pay-as-you-go type of an organization, but we're going to bond an amount so we can finish Harbor Point and take a look at the medical unit at the jail and a couple other things. And so there are some things that we're going to be bonding for that. But the big takeaway, and you have to understand too, when you try to explain the property tax system in Florida, you start with it's broken. And you can't really explain it. It's just not, it's not something anybody can explain. It's just as confusing as can be. But I will say that the board over the last 3 years, and I think maybe 5 out of the last 7, has reduced the millage rate or property tax rate, which is a variable in your overall taxes. This year is the largest reduction in memory of the property taxes. And so what it does is, skipping all the numbers that go into that formula and just saying the board could have had an additional $8 million this year.
Just this year.
That's recurring money. And they said, no, we're going to give that back to the taxpayers. And so that, in fact, we had some folks last night come to the hearing and say, my taxes went down. I don't think they went down enough, but they did go down.
Yeah, but if they go down $1, I think you take the win because the value of your house went up 3%, right?
Yeah. So it's a good time, and overall, the last 3 years, I think the number is $18 million.
Yeah.
Which is recurring.
That the board has given back. Now it makes me cry a little bit because I could have done a lot with that in terms of some of the other projects, but it's the right thing to do. And as you grow, as you become more successful, you want to make sure that you're giving back. And I think the board has been confident in that. And I think our other constitutional officers and other partners also understand that as well.
And you do have to give back a little because then there's other things, the half-cent sales tax, the tax abatement. So you need your residents, your constituents to have confidence that you're looking after them in the best possible manner. So 2 of our jurisdictions are reducing their millage rate, which in layman's terms means the percentage of what they're taking from your assessed value is going to get lower. But remember, your value went up 3%, even if your homestead.
And what people have to be aware of too, you have ad valorem taxes, which you alluded to before, and you have non-ad valorem taxes. So when I get my trim notice, and it's confusing to me at first too, what line and this, so I knew what line by education, which line was mine. My taxes actually went down $19. I was ecstatic. I said, okay, good, they're not going up. But then you got to figure in homeowners insurance, which doubled on me last year, okay?
Right.
And then you have to look at your non-ad valorem taxes, your lighting, your sewer, and your waste pickup,
Yeah, I was just
which is
gonna
in the
say.
city, and that went up. So
You and I both
overall,
live in the city. Our bill's going to be higher, not necessarily because of taxes, but non-ad valorem, which are basically assessed fees, right?
Yes.
Right.
For trash.
And
that
then
went
there are
up quite a
people
bit.
who have community development districts or CDDs in their neighborhoods,
Yes.
and so those are also costs that originally the developer didn't carry and didn't include in the price of the house, but it's just an ongoing
And Howard,
cost.
educate me, because how can that happen? It befuddled me, and it did last night. Why should developers be allowed, and I'm not being critical of them, because
Right.
if somebody gives me the opportunity to take advantage of something, I'm going to do it. I get that. But why would there be something like that? Like, hey, we're developing this, but you're going to get the price tag later in your taxes.
So traditionally, prior to the mid-1990s, developers, when they would build stormwater ponds, the roads for the subdivision, maybe intersection improvements, they would carry all of that cost, and then they would build that into the price of the house.
Right.
In the 1990s, this vehicle came along called Community Development Districts, which is it's actually a government entity, and it is a way for the developers to finance the improvements, not have to pay for it, and then as the residents come in later, they have that as part of an annual assessment that they pay. And it's a tool that obviously has caught fire for all the reasons that you just identified.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I don't have to put out as much as
But
if I'm the
realistically,
developer.
it's
But there
marketing.
were some irate citizens, and to me, it's just...
They are some irate, but here's the thing: it's marketing. So,
Yeah.
so they built all of this stuff, and they're kicking that cost of it down the road to
That's
the
right.
people.
Kicking that can.
Because if they really built all that stuff into the price of the house, they wouldn't sell the house.
That's right. That's exactly.
But then the people that are upset and are buying into a CDD, they have amenities that are probably not available to
Dollars.
residents outside the CDD.
But let me ask a question then. Are there homeowner association fees too on top of that?
Of
There
course.
can be. There can be.
I'm going to
Okay.
say of course. In
Because
our
the-
areas where there's a CDD, typically there's an HOA as well.
Okay.
But they do have amenities. So
And they're told that up front when you purchase this house that down the road you're going to have a CDD and...
well, the CDD's already there when it's on their tax bill. So
Yeah.
so listen.
What
But it's just like
happens-
homestead. Sometimes the
Yeah,
realtors
don't
don't
know.
what,
tell
do-
them.
what
They don't
does
know.
happen is sometimes they don't look below the line, right?
Yeah.
And so they just have to get down to look where the solid waste assessment would be
Right.
below the line.
Yeah.
That's where the CDD is.
Or my
Gotcha.
favorite one is the assessed value from the original owner. So their taxes are markedly lower
Oh,
than what you're going to pay.
You hit the nail on the head. You have and I'll just give you the $370,000 because that's the median price of a house now in St.
Yeah.
Lucie County. You have a $370,000 valued house.
Yeah.
If you lived in that house over, I'm going to throw a number out there, 10, 15 years, and then you have somebody moves in, just
Yeah.
buys the house there, same identical house, same value, they're going to pay twice as much.
So what
That's
happens-
a broken system.
Well, the system is I bought my house during the recession as a flip, and I gutted it and redid it. So the value of my house was very little, right? And then I homesteaded it. So I got a $50,000 credit. So I'm paying not much, I'm not going to lie. But then if I sold my house today, they're going to pay taxes on what I sold that to them
Yes.
for, which is a couple hundred, $250,000 more than what I am paying taxes on. But that's how the broken system in Florida works.
It's a seniority system.
Yeah,
The
it is a
longer you
seniority.
hold on to your house, the less you're going to pay. That's
Yeah.
just how it works.
But the people in the CDDs are having amenities, because I get this argument all the time. I'd like an autonomous car to take me up to Target in my neighborhood. Well, that's privately paid for, just so you know. And part of all of that amenities is the fact that it's privately paid for, made available because the housing is higher. There's HOAs and there's CDDs.
Amenities.
So you have to pick and choose what you want. But there's options. You don't have to buy into a CDD.
As long as the citizens are aware, to me that would be, because a woman last night or a man, I forget who it was,
Howard and I are looking at each other. I'm not
seemed
sure
like,
they're aware.
what is this?
Yeah.
I feel that we could do a better job
Of educating.
Of educating. And I think that some of that onus has to be put on realtors, right? When they buy, and I'm not sure they're not required to.
Well, I think too, people come in, they find this beautiful house and this beautiful community with all of those amenities, and
Tunnel vision.
Tunnel.
that's just what that's what I want.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they find out later.
But
So,
it's an interesting system. It's a free market. You don't have to go there.
that's right.
Right.
I'll forego the autonomous vehicle that goes about 2 miles an hour. I do like it though. It's lovely, but it is very slow.
So I just want to kind of finish up on the budget piece, and so I do want you to know that in addition to lowering the millages, our reserves are where they need to be. Our beach projects through the erosion districts
Yeah.
are rocking, and we have reserves there as well. Mosquito control is under new management there. New director, Roger Jacobson, doing a great job for us, and they've had a great season, and their reserves are fine. So we are in a really good place all the way around.
Good.
Feeling the strain of growth, for sure. You think about the landfill. We are filling that up faster than what we had anticipated, so we have to open up a new cell sooner than we anticipated, which is not inexpensive. But we are, I think, in a very good spot today, and with the vision that the board has for the future and the things that we're doing to prepare for that future, our best days are ahead of us.
I agree, and I think a large portion of that is due in part to your leadership, and we appreciate that.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No
yeah.
doubt.
No, it's a team effort. It's a team effort.
You know, you're
There's no I in teaming. He'll never brag about himself.
I
but
know.
he's
But it
been
is
the,
a team.
the steadying force. When Howard has an idea, he has to walk it around, not just to me, but the other 4 commissioners, get with staff, and he's always done it in a timely fashion and where he's not like, I need this. He's just like, Commissioner, this is what I'd like to propose to you, and this is the pros, and he'll give me the cons too, and he'll say, but looking forward, the vision. And what is our motto?
Opportunity, endless opportunity by design.
There you go.
Very nice. Yes.
Endless opportunity by
Steadying
design.
force
Yep.
and confident. I think that that's the biggest thing in your leadership. And leadership, I mean, not just your elected officials, but your county administrators, your city managers. You have to have confidence because as you guys don't direct staff, you have to have confidence that they are and are really kind of well-versed in what's happening.
And
So I
Howard
appreciate
spoke
that.
about having enough in reserves, and I'll never forget, and this will stick with me the rest of my life. Remember when, was it Dorian was coming straight at us?
Well, there's been many.
Okay, well,
But
Dorian,
yeah.
this was a few years
The
ago.
one over the Bahamas.
And it
Okay,
stayed
very
in the
good.
Bahamas. Well,
Oh, yes.
I'm at the EOC because, you know, as an elected official, you got to see what's going on and
Yep.
stand there with your team. And I'm standing next to Howard, and the only thing I'm waiting on is Jim Cantori. Because I said,
Oh,
if he comes,
yes.
we're out of here.
The Jim
But I
Cantori
whispered
days,
over to
yes.
Howard, and my son gave me a hard time. He goes, Dad, you weren't smiling. Well, to me, there was nothing to smile about. This thing's coming at us. I remember Gene and Francis and all the troubles.
Wilma.
And then you learn about clawbacks from FEMA, and I whisper over to Howard, I go, how much we got in reserves if this thing hits us like we're supposed to? And I forget the number, but it was shocking, like there wasn't much there. And then we insisted as a board, and I pushed with it too, is that I don't want a certain dollar amount for reserves, I want a certain percentage. And that was Howard's vision. And I've sat on pension boards and healthcare boards, and there's gonna be bad days.
Sure.
There are.
And there's always going to be clawbacks.
Well, I was just going to say, in FEMA, sometimes you don't dot every I, cross every T. They may have given you money for your hurricane disaster, but they claw that money back.
Even
Where
if
would
you
that money
dotted them
come?
and crossed.
Evident, yeah. So
They're clawing back,
he
aren't
was
they,
very
Howard?
cognizant of that fact, and I know how, in his personal beliefs, and because of 40 years' experience in government, he said we need a certain percentage for our reserves, and I think it's a marvelous thing that we did. So we're rock solid in case something does happen. And everybody knows the economy; it goes up, it goes down. We're on a good. Even during the pandemic, our tourism dollars are the highest they've ever been, and we're doing it all the right way. And proud to have him at the helm.
Yes, very much so. Very appreciative. If he should ever leave, I'd be very upset. All right, did we want to open it up to questions?
Anybody have any questions?
Oh, whoops. I guess we didn't come to an agreement on that at the beginning of the show because we are ill prepared for questions. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, I think maybe one of the questions could be, you know, what are we doing to make sure that we're prepared for the opportunities coming down the pike? And part of it is getting shovel ready with those designs because we know there's going to be some more dollars in play.
For sure.
Part of it is making sure that we have a grants team that is all over it. And we do have a very strong grants team led by Nicole Fogarty, Courtney Calderon,
Lori
Rocky. We're actually adding a position to that team just because
Wow.
they not only pay for themselves, they pay for themselves times 100. I mean, you know,
That's a huge part of economic development, right? Is having a strong grants team
my goodness,
that can
yes.
work the system.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So again, that's how we leverage these local dollars that we have, which we are so appreciative of for in having, whether it's sales tax or ad valorem or some other source. But we take that and we multiply that.
Yeah.
And that's really going to be the key to the success because it's a partnership with our state and federal partners. It's a partnership with our business community and the private partnerships that we have. And that's how we meet this. It's not just adding more taxes, it's finding ways to be smarter about how we build this.
And I learned early in my term that the state legislators love to hear that word match.
Yeah,
that
anytime
doubles
you can
our
say
money.
matching dollars,
Oh
you
my
just
goodness,
throw it
yeah.
in there no matter what
So that's
you're
100%
right.
return on your investment. In other words, you'll say, Senator so-and-so, it's it's $1 million project, we'll match that.
Yeah.
And their eyes perk up and we look at each other and say, there we
It's
go.
like free money, like your 401k,
Yeah,
right?
so you think there's probably, say, $6 million left to do at the terminal where Director is.
Okay.
So what we do is we'll pull down $3 million in grants. In fact, we just announced on Tuesday that we had a $1.5 million grant from the Florida Ports Council, and Director matches that.
Wow.
So the local match isn't even us. It's a
It's a private
it's a
entity,
business
yeah,
partner.
yeah.
And so that's the local economy will benefit from a $6 million investment, half of it from the state, half of it from a private partner.
From Director,
Well,
which,
wow.
you know, they let me operate their crane, so I don't know if I'd have
It's
much
amazing.
confidence
It's
in
the
that.
highest
They let me do it.
It's the biggest lifting device
Oh my
in North
gosh, it was
America.
the highlight of my year. I got to operate the crane.
The tires are 8 feet tall. I
Yes.
mean, just by themselves.
You got to look up to see.
He let me park it. It was awesome. Kimberly has a
I have a quick question that has to do with maybe the western area development. So I'm not necessarily a horse lover. However, I understand Palm Beach as it grew. I graduated high school down in Palm Beach County. And I know they have a lot of thought given to the equestrian community down there. And, you know, Fort Pierce has a particular heritage, and St. Lucie has a really cool cultural heritage and history.
Yeah.
Are we given forethought to any of that agriculture or the equestrian type communities? And is that even on anyone's agenda at the county, or would it be?
No, that's a great question. Thank you. And so one of the things that the board did actually is when they approved the urban service boundary west on the southern part of the county unincorporated area, they did not do that in the central and northern part of the county. But what they did say is, let's study that, and for that exact reason. So there are some characteristics that are rural and are maybe lower density types of developments, so you can continue to have kind of a horse and or small little farm areas. And we want to make sure that we can preserve that. So there will be a study that will be done. Right now we're looking at a partnership with the Regional Planning Council to help us do that study. And we'll take a look at what the central and then the northern western areas can look like for the future, but absolutely trying to preserve that, thinking about the growth patterns that make sense. One of the things that you have to think about, if you think about growth out that way, you know, Jenkins kind of will be kind of the roadway that's going to be on the eastern side of 95 to help alleviate the traffic. What's the road on the western side of the turnpike going to be? That we've got to start reserving that right of way to make sure that there's going to be a roadway that can handle from Glades or from Crosstown all the way out around west and coming up to Indrio. So that'll all be part of that planning study, but trying to preserve the things that are important. Nobody wants rooftops everywhere. That's a Los Angeles model that we don't want to copy. But I think we can grow smart, preserve the things that are important to our community, and accommodate some of this growth that we see.
Thank you for the question.
Absolutely.
Anybody else have a question? Oh, good. It was a good question.
It was.
Well, I want to thank you both, and Howard, of course, thank you for being with us. Typically, we do like to have you on during budget time,
Yes.
so and we like it when there's good budget.
Great.
You know,
That's right. And I anticipate we're already into the latter part of 2022. I would expect a reduction in your millage again next year. So these are all
Okay.
positive things. We're doing good things here in this county, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
yeah, we definitely are.
Thank you, Howard.
Yeah, man. Thank you
Thanks.
for having me.
Thanks
Good
for
to see
being
you.
here. I want to thank our audience in Steamworks Coffee right there on US 1.
Support your local businesses.
Support your local business. I love my local partners,
Mm-hmm.
right? So make sure that you're heading into Steamworks. He does some great things, some unique blends. So head into Steamworks. And
Today
of
was a
course,
Peruvian blend.
Yes, he brings us a different blend every
Mm-hmm.
month. It's very enjoyable. It's sort of a guessing game. And then their pastries and their food and everything is very unique as well. And I also want to thank Angie Pools,
Mm-hmm.
you know, our sponsor for this show, that are very, very private. I always try to get them on here, but
Mm-hmm.
they nobody ever wants to do it. But they do support us. And again,
They're too busy, I think.
Oh, yeah, they
Well,
are.
I saw Travis the other
Anybody
night.
in
They're
the
very
building
busy.
industry right now is
Yeah.
just slammed. So, but yes, I very much appreciate everything they do, not just for me, but for the community. And Mike and everybody here, the staff, Stefan at the studio. Thank you, audience members, for coming down. Although I think I pay a few of them, most of them, they have to be. It's mandatory, but we appreciate it. And have a great day, everybody. Till next time.